All right, it is.
Time to podcast.
All right, today we are doing part two of our tier ranking of every single Survivor winner. And yes, I mean part two. If you're watching this and you haven't seen part one, I would highly recommend watching it because we are going to start already at the post heroes versus villains mark. We are going to start with Fabio and go all the way to Tony Velachos, I believe it's pronounced, Win and Winners at War. In part one, we covered Richard Hatch up until Sandra Diaz Twine's second win in Heroes versus Villains. The link is going to be at the very top of the description. If you haven't seen part one, really great. Check it out. It's on the Survivor Specialists YouTube channel. Give them a subscribe as well as our channel down below. Can't name. My screen is flipped, so wherever I point, it's actually the opposite. So, yes. Cool. So, you've been warned. Spoilers, because I'm about to share our tier ranking in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2,
Oh,
boom,
that's terrible. Oh man. Oh, that's awful. Golly.
boom.
Look at what
There
Adam's
we go.
done. Look at what he's
There we
done,
go.
guys. Isn't it bad? Isn't it bad? Bob Crawley should be at a C. Fabio should be at a D. Like this is he's completely ruined it, isn't it? Yeah. Anyways, go on.
So, yes, Vesepia is a B and Bob Crowley is a D. That's why Gideon is rather upset on this fine Sunday evening. But we are trying to limit the number of only S's. We're gonna go as many as we can fit. But we're trying to find a good balance. Like we don't want there to be too many of any one tier. Coming into this, I thought there would be the B's. I think B would be the most we'd see. So I'm
Yeah,
interested that we have so
surprisingly, we
many.
have a lot of A's. Yeah,
And I'm looking, I feel like we got some A's to come, for
yeah.
sure. S's, we're trying to limit it to four. Since we have 40 winners that we're tiering, we wanted like a tenth. So we're going to try to limit it to four. So Hatch is our only S. We're trying not to move any. The only ones we've left room to move around during this part two are we might move some S's to A's, we might move some A's to S's, but everyone I think B and to C and D is pretty locked. I'm assuming you would have watched part one by now coming into this, but if you're skipping right to part two, the two things I want to tell you are one, we are tiering how impressive their win was. So, for example, for Sandra, like she's on here twice, we're only looking at her Pearl Islands game, which is the one in the B category there, and then her Heroes versus Villains win is the one in the D category. So we're not taking into consideration any of their other games. We're not taking into consideration anything they've done outside of Survivor, or else Heidick would be lower. That's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to mention is if you notice there is no E and there's no F. So there is an E and F. It's just we know we're not going to put any winners there. It's hard enough to put any winners in the D category. That's tough because all of these winners are great for their own respective reasons. You know, some of them come in with no athletic ability. Some of them come in with no strategic, manipulative mindset. So at the end of the day, if you utilized what resources and skill sets that you have as a person to win the game, that's impressive. And we didn't feel like it was justifiable to put any winner in the E and F. It's hard enough putting winners in the D. So even the winners in the D category are still amazing players, except Bob Crowley. Okay, I'm joking. Bob Crowley's a great player. We're moving on to Survivor Nicaragua. We started off new school in what a lot of people call the dark ages. It was really Denise's win in Philippines. I think a lot of people see us as getting us out of the dark ages. Nevertheless, we are going to go through every single winner. So Fabio is our first one. Nicaragua. Are we starting off right away with add another to the D? What are we doing here, Gideon?
I think we are, Adam. Fabio, of course, as we've said many times, just in case we want to interview these people later on, people are still great players. We're going about their season and how it went for them. Fabio went on a good challenge run at last minute that saved him, and the edit didn't show a lot of his strategy and social game. So while Fabio did win, we did not get a lot from that win. So for that reason, he is a.
Yeah, I think he picked up early that, like, wow, this season has a lot of people that are backstabbers. The season had a lot of schemers. The season had a lot of hard players. And I don't know if that was because we had just come off of Heroes and Villains, probably the most scheming, conniving, everyone playing hard, post-merge, except for the winner in Heroes versus Villains. So I don't know if that influenced that sort of like everyone playing like a villain. It felt like Nicaragua was just villains versus villains. Yep. So I think Fabio realized early on, hey, you know what? If I'm like the one guy that just doesn't get people upset, like doesn't backstab, doesn't betray, just does my own thing, I might actually sneak my way to the end and actually win this thing. And it worked. So it's hard to knock his win. I mean, he didn't really have to do any big moves. He did okay in challenges. His social game, I guess was okay. So, I think that's why we got to put him in D, because he just didn't seem like a well-rounded player. Didn't really have to overcome that many obstacles. He was never really in like a power position, but yeah, I think he's a D for sure. Okay. This is the one coming into this that I thought even more than Vesepia, that me and you, even with Vesepia, you put Vesepia as a C, I put her as a B. So we were only one off. There's no one so far that me and you have been more than one tier away. Never, not once. And we agreed before this that if there was someone, to those who don't, didn't listen to our game plan, coming into this, we agreed that like if I put someone at like a A and Gideon put someone at a C, we would just split the difference and make it a B. That hasn't happened yet. We've only been one away on a couple. Most people we've agreed with. This might change things. So I'll leave it to you first. So of course we're talking about Boston Rob. Now again, if we're talking about Boston Rob's career, he's got to be in the A, if not the S category. I only say in A because, of course, he had some dud seasons, 2 of his 5. But we're talking about how impressive was his win on Redemption Island. Here's the thing: I think people who are Survivor fans look at Boston Rob's win at Redemption Island, and they either think it was basically handed to him on a silver platter, or they look at his victory as one of, if not the single most dominant wins of all time. Where do you fall?
I fall under it's one of the most dominant wins of all time. I would put him in an S.
Man. Okay, well, I'll let you. Do you want to say your reason first, or do you want the defense? Do you want the rebuttal, or do you want the initial? What do you want?
Defend.
You want to go first?
I'm better at defending.
So you want the rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, we say we weren't going to look at the fact that it may have taken them a couple times to win. However, look at their previous games, only want to look at their wins. But if you consider the fact that once Russell, who had a challenge thrown just to get him out, not really because of anything he did in that season, it was really just because of how his perception was in seasons past. If you look at that, Rob really had no competition. Andrea's okay. That was it. and Andrea is only okay like now. Like she's grown in like Game Changers and Caramoan, more so Caramoan. I think her game in Caramoan's a bit underrated, to be honest. But in that game, she just most of the Redemption Island. See, here's the thing about Redemption Island is I feel like you have to know a lot of the the secrets with the season to really get a good picture of it. Redemption Island, besides Nicaragua, has the most recruits of any Survivor season. What that means is of the 20 people on the cast, I think, so besides Russell and Boston Rob, of those 18 people, I think the number is like 15 of them had never seen an episode of Survivor coming in. So when you take that into consideration, to me, that chips down Boston Rob's victory by a lot. The fact that he has played the game once in Marquesas, 2 in an all-star season where he made it to the end, 3 in Heroes versus Villains, arguably the most stacked cast ever. So he had to go through all that and all that experience, and he's playing against people who most of them have never, ever seen the show at all. So they don't know how important idols are. They don't know how important keeping your alliance strong is. They don't know how important like getting out the big targets are. The second thing is, if you are a recruit on Survivor, Survivor when you're in Ponderosa, because you have to come to Ponderosa for like a week or two before coming on the show, they give you seasons, or even sometimes before you come out. I actually don't know exactly when this particular season got their DVDs, but Survivor production will give you seasons to watch. So because they don't want people to be like season 1 where no one knew what was going on. They wanted you to have at least some understanding of what voting out is, of what challenges are, of what idols are. Like you need to have the basic knowledge. So what seasons did production give those recruits? They gave them All-Stars, and they gave them Heroes versus Villains and Marquesas. So of course, who's the guy that everyone is going to want to play with? It's going to be Boston Rob, who of course walked out of the helicopter. The people on the season that were not recruits, that were fans of the show, the one thing they all had in common, I think it was like 4 or 5 people weren't recruits. I don't know the exact numbers, but it wasn't half and half. It was mostly non-recruits. The people who were fans of the show on Redemption Island were all asked the same question. Who is your favorite Survivor player? Who would you want to play with? If you didn't say Boston Rob, you were out of the running or casting. Everyone on that season was either a recruit who didn't know how to play and was basically brainwashed into loving Rob, or was a Boston Rob fan coming into the season. When you take that into consideration, I think the victory on Redemption Island for Rob is knocked down a good bit. Obviously, it's not a D. Obviously, it's not a C. I'm putting Rob at a B.
Oh, a B.
I'm putting him at a B.
That's awful. And now, I mean, we're gonna have to compromise and go A, but whatever. I think if not, what you just said adds to the fact that Boston Rob's win was great, because if you watched all those seasons, if you watched All Stars and Heroes versus Villains, Rob would be the first person I want to take out of the game because he's so good and he's a threat. I don't understand why that would make them want to play with him. How he acted in All Stars and how he acted in Heroes versus Villains, I mean, he's a threat. You want to take him out if he's a great player, just like they did with Russell. They did it to him, but they didn't do it to Rob. They didn't do it to Rob because he is a great social player and he implemented the buddy system, and it made everybody look like a fool. I mean, how he played on Redemption Island, it did make it look like it was a bad season where it was just handed to him because he kept him on lockdown so much. Now, granted, you can't force people to stay with you. They did it willingly. They were under Boston Rob's wing, and I mean, he played so well that he didn't even know it. It's stop, take it off. Oh my gosh. Look, he's an S tier winner. That's one of the greatest wins of all time. If you don't think so, then you're a casual.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think a victory has ever been handed to someone on a silver platter the way Redemption Island. That season was made specifically for him to win. There's so much more. Like, I could talk for hours about how that season was made for him to win. Like, if you look at all the challenges he was good at in his past seasons, those are the ones that showed up in Redemption Island. Like, they wanted him to win immunities. They The people that he was good against, that he was alliance with in his past seasons, they targeted those types of people for their recruits. I could go on. I think we need to have a separate podcast just for
facts,
debating Redemption Island.
Yeah, because I'm not really into all this conspiracy. I just take the season.
These are
as
facts.
A season.
These are
okay. Sure. No, take the season as the season, man. It was a dominant win. It's on par with Kim Spradlin's. It's on par with being as powerful as Kim Spradlin's win. I mean, he controlled it that much to the point where some people found it boring. I found it pretty entertaining because I also loved Philip, and him and Philip were enough to fill up the whole TV time to me. But yeah, dude, I think Rob's an S tier winner.
It was a good win. It was a good win, but I put him at B. So yes, this is our first complete disagreement, I guess I would say. I don't know if there will be another one where we're 2 tiers off, and definitely not where we're more than 2. But all right, so we'll put Boston Rob at A. I think it's too much. You think it's too little. So okay, I guess it balances it out. Moving on to Survivor season 23. The South Pacific. We have Sophie Clark.
I want to talk about this one because I'm a Coach fan.
Okay, do
it. Obviously, I'm a big Coach fanboy, right? And the first time I watched it, I was pissed because I love Coach, and I was like, "What the heck, dude? Coach controlled this whole game." But as I watched the seasons more and more, and I've watched this season like 3 or 4 times, I came to appreciate Sophie's game a lot more. Because she did use Coach, and it's the fact that she's one of the only sane people that whole season, that she didn't really her move was not making a move and keeping those people held down. There was times where people wanted to flip and do crazy things. She'd be like, nah, stick to the plan. Like, we need to, stay solid. And it really made me appreciate her game more. If you asked me, when the season aired and when I was watching it, granted, I was like 12, I probably would have said, oh, she's a D tier. But now I would put her B.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I know we agreed to not look at to only look at their wins. But if we're just talking about Sophie as a player, even though she didn't make it that far in Winners at War, her Winners at War game made me like her win in South Pacific is like the ultimate, like, was it a great win or was it not a great win? And I think
I think she even proved the haters wrong with even in that season, because she still played well, and it was just unfortunate the fact that she got taken out by an S tier player.
Okay, I'll give you an S tier character. Or are you talking about Winners at War? Or are you talking about South Pacific?
About Winners at War.
Oh, okay.
I was saying she played great on Winners at War, but she was taken out by an S tier player.
Oh, okay.
She was playing a good game, but she got taken out by somebody higher up on the food chain.
Okay. I thought you were. I some reason I thought you said.
If we're going strictly off character, Sophie's probably like an E, D, and then Coach is an S. Yes, but we're talking about winning here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm cool with putting her. It's tough. I mean, it's B or C for me, because B sounds okay, but then I'm looking like, the thing with Sophie is she wasn't the winner we wanted, but she was the winner we needed. Because at the end of the day, for Survivor to bring back Russell and Rob, and for Rob to win, and then for the next season for them to bring back Coach and Ozzy, and if Coach and Ozzy won, it would have been great in the moments, but this was a time where Survivor desperately needed to evolve. This is why they called it the Dark Ages. They needed it to evolve. We needed new heroes, new villains, new iconic players. So of course, in the moment, everyone's like, oh, Coach, oh, Ozzy. I feel like looking back on it, I'm really happy that Sophie won the season. And it's tough, though, because I'm looking at some of these other let me put the list up. I'm looking at some of the other Bs, and like Was her game as impressive as Tina's, as Biseppia's? I know you'll say Biseppia's, yes.
It surely wasn't as impressive as Earl's.
It definitely wasn't impressive as Earl's. But I'm looking at some of these C's, and I'm looking at Ethan. I'm looking at Amber, who won an All-Stars. I'm looking at Aris, who somehow out-challenged the Ultimate Challenge Beast when it came down to it. And Ethan, who was,
I'm okay with putting it. Sophie to me is a B leaning C. So if you want to go C, go C.
All right. We'll go C with Sophie. I know it's going to make a lot of the diehards because Sophie has.
Yeah, the stands. The stands are going to come for it. But I don't care.
We cater to no one but our own opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kim, One World. S?
I would say A.
Really? See, I thought we were going to agree on this one. I thought Kim.
I would say A leaning S, but not. She's not iconic enough to put as an S. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and let you put Kim at an A or as an S and put her above Boston Rob.
But Boston Rob played it took him 3 times to win. Kim played basically the same game he did, the same amount of power, same amount of dominance on her first try. How is that not more impressive?
Because, dude, like I said, when you think of, why didn't we put Kim Spradlin on the Survivor of Mount Rushmore? Like we said, because we're putting Richard at an S tier, his game stands the test of time. Kim Spradlin's game doesn't really stand the test of time. People remember Boston Rob's win, and people do remember Kim's win, but I don't know if I put it at an S. I don't know if it's iconic enough to put it at an S.
See, I'm not considering like anything like iconic, or I'm not considering standing the test of time. If you wouldn't include that as one of your criteria,
dude, but you can't be talking like that and then not put Boston Rob because he had to play 3 times beforehand. You're being inconsistent. Either talk about the past and the future, or don't talk about it at all. You're being inconsistent. If you're gonna put Kim up there, put up Boston Rob. I don't care. If you're gonna put Kim Spradlin at an S, if you're gonna take her season at face value, you better put Boston Rob up there too. I do not care if you are not gonna be talking about iconic players. It doesn't matter if it's not iconic. Then stop talking about Boston Rob's past 3 times he played.
Well, here's the thing. I think you're wrong. If I would take Boston Rob's past, I would put him even lower. I would put him in a D for that win if I would consider his past. I was trying not to consider that.
But you kept saying, "Oh, I'm putting Boston Rob at a B because he got it handed to him because he played the past 3 times and it was handed to him." Yeah, he was a returnee, but dude,
tell me this. Kim and Rob, who was more dominant, or were their power levels about equal?
To me, their power levels were equal.
Okay, I agree. Which season had tougher competition? One World or Redemption Island?
Colton, Troyzan, and the other season, Philip.
Philip
was a goat. Philip was a goat, but he was still a decent player.
Not in Redemption Island. He was great, and he was. I'm cool with this Caramoan game, but if you think Philip was any competition to Rob at all,
no, he's a great person to bring to the end.
Right. So which season honestly had the best? And you're forgetting Sabrina. Sabrina is one of the most underrated runner-ups, I think.
Yeah, I know she's underrated because nobody remembers it.
because Kim was so dominant. Who had which season had the tougher competition?
I guess One World.
It's One World. Okay. And Kim was able to do it on her first try. It took Boston Rob 4 tries in a season of recruits. How, with that information, how can you possibly put Kim below Boston Rob's win?
I don't want to put her below Boston Rob. I want to put her on par with.
But if you had to pick one, to go to go into the S. To me, it's Kim 365 days out of the year. If you ask me, it'd be Kim's win.
Boston Rob made people look stupid, and you can't handle it.
So did Kim. Kim made people look dumb.
Well, obviously not if you think they were good competition.
I didn't say they all were good competition, but collectively they were better. Chelsea, she was running Chelsea around in circles. Chelsea easily could have pulled enough people to vote Kim out, but every time Kim is like, I think Chelsea might start to sense that I'm really the one running the show. She would just sit her down, have a little talk, and then Chelsea would do everything in her power to help keep Kim around.
One World is a boring season, and Redemption Island, I can definitely see why people find it boring too. But just because of how dominant people are, but man, I just don't think you can handle that. Boston Rob played a good game. You don't like it. I don't know why.
I think it was. I put him in the A. I think it was a good game. The buddy system was a great strategy. The buddy system was good. It was smart. He also, the whole thing where he distracted his tribe while he went and found an idol. Again, if they weren't recruits, that might not have happened. But that's another, him taking advantage of the fact that he was playing with guys who didn't know how to play the game. Him utilizing 2 goats. Let's not forget that he took 2 goats to the ends. I just feel like, but Boston, I like his game. Like, I don't think Redemption Island is the worst season. I like Redemption Island better than One World, as an entertaining season. But if we're talking about whose win impressed me the most, for Kim to play almost the same game, her first time against better competition, to me, if this is tier ranking impressive wins, if it's the same game, but Tim had better competition and did it on her first try, to me, it's hands down. I mean, I get that you want to put them both, but I feel like we got to start putting some in S's. I feel like this is the point where we got to put at least one of them. And I put him as a B.
It's a crime that you're putting Kim and Boston Rob. You're putting Kim on par with Hatch and Hatch only, and then Tony later on. But dude, come on.
Hey, we'll have at least one more in the S's. I mean, from start to finish, Kim was just able to do it against fans of the show who knew and had just seen how dominant someone was with Boston Rob, and had to see it early on. But Kim, every time there was a chance that anyone was going against Kim, she went and talked with them and had personal conversations. And she was so dominant at challenges too. I think she won 4 immunity challenges. She tied the women's record. She won more challenges than Boston Rob won.
She won.
Okay, listen. She won the same amount of challenges. To me, it's like if you compare Kim's and Boston Rob's game, every aspect is either the same or Kim by a little. There's no part of comparing their games that I would give the edge to Rob. I'd give him bonus points for the buddy system and a few smaller moves, but to me, when you compare the two. Now, again, if this was a list based on the Mount Rushmore, or who has a better Survivor career, who's a greater player, who represents the show more, who's more iconic, in all those fields, yes, it's Boston Rob almost every time over Kim. But we're comparing Kim's win in One World to Rob's win in Redemption Island. To me, it's Kim.
I can't say anything. I put her at an A, so whatever.
You said A leaning S, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, A leaning S, and I feel the same way about Boston Rob, because I agree, Boston Rob's win is dominant, but yeah, I can see how somebody would say it was catered to him, even though I just think he made it look that way because he did the buddy system and made him look stupid. But
this next one is one of the ones I'm the most interested to talk about with Philippines, because Denise is someone I feel like you could put in C. I feel like you could put her in B and A. It's weird. I feel like you could make a great case.
I would put her in B.
And see,
It's a
Normally
great
when that
comeback. She's great socially. I think she won 1 or 2 challenges individually.
hmm
And then, yeah, it's just, the first person to go to every freaking tribal council. And the fact that, overcoming well, actually, she didn't beat Malcolm. So he who must not be named beat Malcolm. But yeah, it was a good win. And she's one of the greatest social players to ever be on Survivor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how Wendell play out last, she is. If you look at who's the face of all three of those, outlast is Denise. There's no
Mhm.
other player that went to every single tribal council. And the
Oh
fact that
yeah.
she did and made it to the end and gave a great performance, I think to me it'd be either A or B. So if you're leaning more towards B,
I'm
I'm
leaning
cool with.
B. I'm leaning B. She's a great player. I'm not putting her on par with the other, great players in A.
Mm, yeah, and then the difference with her comeback win and someone like Bisepia, because I'd actually put her ahead of Bisepia, even though they're both in B, is her comeback win wasn't was mostly not due to her own fault. You know, Bisepia started very slow. She started not doing all these great social game strategies that she later adopted. She started kind of avoiding taking alliances seriously. She kind of, I don't want to say she completely put herself in the rut that caused the need for a comeback, but she didn't help it.
But
Denise,
Denise, right off the bat, had
Denise,
that connection with Malcolm, and then from there, that was
mm,
like the core of the entire game. But I think,
right,
obviously Denise knew at the end, like, I have to cut Malcolm so I can win, because if he gets to the end, he's golden. Like, he's the
hmm
golden boy that'll get to the end and win.
yeah. Of the B's for me, the two I would say are B plus would be Denise and
Earl,
Earl.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Um, Cochran's a tough one. Cochran, I
I'm a
feel like we're gonna.
Cochran fan, but I can definitely see even more so than Boston Rob as to why people say it was handed to him.
That was the worst tribe of returning players. They weren't. How many of those guys were actually favorites? Was it even half?
Cochran Cochran really wasn't even a favorite. He became a favorite during fans
Yeah.
versus favorites. That's the funny
Right.
thing. It was fans versus favorites, and when you think back on it, you're like, "Oh, I love Cochran." But people before fans versus favorites didn't really even care for Cochran. He was a flipper, and
Right.
he ruined Ozzy's chances of winning the game. And people are big Ozzy stands, and
And
some love
coach.
Ozzy and coach that too. Well, he helped
Yeah.
out coach, but so beforehand, who was actually a favorite? Maybe you could say Andrea and Philip. I love Philip. I loved Philip
Yeah.
before favorites. Um,
Philip a favorite.
Brandon Hance a favorite. Maybe
Brenda.
Brenda honestly was pretty forgettable in her season, even though what was there to her other than she's a
She
threat?
just like stopped playing. She was
Yeah,
doing great. She was like doing the Parvati like role where she was kind of like
yeah,
manipulating all the guys, using her charm, and then she just like stopped playing. I don't know
yeah.
if
I know.
like the elements got to her, but Eric is Eric a favorite? He became a favorite just
He
like
be
Cochran.
Yeah, he became. That's what I'm saying. It should have been. It should have been fans versus these people. Some of these people will become favorites, not fans versus favorites. And then some people we ended up hating
That did,
even more.
that does have a ring to it. I'll give you that. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
they
Help
I
me
think
name
they
the Survivor. Fans versus these people might become favorites.
I I think they realized they had to bring one of the fans back from Micronesia, but it
Mhm.
was like who? It was like which fan? The
I would.
only two?
I would have done not.
Natalie.
Yeah, I would have done Natalie. Sorry, I'm
I,
bad with
I
names.
I do too. I feel like I feel like those are the only two you could even considered would have been
Yeah, Natalie and
Natalie
Eric.
and Eric. And I
Yeah.
still want to see Natalie. Like I hope Natalie
Honestly, why
comes
isn't
back and
she
play.
back, dude? Like, she did so good her season. Like, yeah, she eventually got demolished by the Black Widow Brigade, but I mean, golly, she did
Wasn't
great.
she in? Wasn't she a member?
She was, but there was a sub alliance
Right.
of the
Um
returnees. She was the last fan left.
And a sub alliance with, if you just look at Amanda and Parv.
Yeah, but they didn't know it was going to Final Three.
Um,
She's the one that did the convincing. Natalie's the one that did the. I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but she's the one that did the convincing. She was the one that was like, "Here's the catch. You give me your necklace." Like that famous line.
yeah. Well, Suri buttered him up a bit.
Yeah, that
Or
too.
Suri went in for the kill. Natalie was the one who buttered him up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Suri thought of the plan, and Parvati just sat back and watched. But everyone's still anyway. Another thing with Cochran, if you look at, because even the people that were favorites, I don't think were that good of players. Because even like Malcolm, here's the thing: when Malcolm came back from Philippines, his season hadn't aired, so he didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
He was a favorite for sure, but he hadn't got a chance to sit back and watch his game and see what he did wrong, what he could improve on. So he kind of played the same game, and it just didn't work. And the move with the 3 idols, while it was good TV, it got Philip.
It's the definition of flash, though. Like you're just like, and really, it's like using the coconut husk in the fire challenge, like using all of it at once. It's like you get a big bright light, and people on the TV think you're gonna win because the flame is so big, but then it just like that, it's gone. That's what it was like.
And what he should have done, and I know people made this argument before, is he should have not said they're voting for Philip, because when they said, "Hey, we're all voting for Philip," that didn't really break the majority alliance. They were like, "Oh, okay, well then we'll all just vote for Philip, and then we'll vote you guys out next week or next episode." If they hadn't said who they were voting out, that would have turned them all against each other. That would have been a good move. I'm not taking credit for that notion. I've heard that multiple people say that before, including Malcolm himself, saying, "Why did I tell them who I was voting out?" Again, it was part of the flash. Cochran is a great player, and he's a great winner, and he played the second of 3 or third of 4 if you consider Earl's, which I do, a perfect game. And he was the second besides JT to get every vote, no votes casted against him, and the fan vote. And him winning a few immunities was cool. Of course, he won the two of his immunities were the one that was like the eating contest. They weren't like athletic ones. But I don't take that away from him. To me, it's B or A. Personally, I'd and part of it too is I want to keep the balance going. What are you leaning?
B.
Okay, I'm leaning B too. And I love Cochran, and I wanted to see him on Winners at War.
And the fan side of me is like, yay, Cochran, nerd, turned Survivor awesomeness. But looking at A, that's stacked. I'm not putting him there.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested what you think. What you think about Tyson, Blood versus Water, season 27, because you become friends with Tyson over the past month or so. So I'm trying to eliminate any personal bias myself, because I know some of these contestants, and I've been trying to wipe out any personal bias I have. Let's see if you can do the same here. Where's Tyson?
Trying to take out my liking for Tyson and looking at his game at face value. Okay, here we go. Well, first of all, one of the best improvements we've seen in Survivor.
Yes, for a winner, absolutely.
But we're not looking at past games, so I just want to put that out there.
Right.
At the start, and Peridia mentioned this in one of his videos, it really seemed like, Tyson's out here for his girlfriend and now wife. He's really here to let her experience Survivor, stuff like that. Of course, that crap changed pretty quickly because she was voted out pretty quickly. And then he exploded on Brad Culpepper, and that was a great moment. And it was awesome. It's weird seeing Tyson get serious because, he's such the goofball in almost every freaking situation. But hold on. Oh, okay. But I'm trying to think, because for me, it's BA somewhere.
Yeah. That I agree with.
If looking at his game, I gotta go through. He was pretty good physically. I don't. He won 3 or 4, something like that. I know he's pretty decent at challenges. He did pretty good. Even though Monica took him to the end, and they voted out Sierra, which is also a good move. And he did draw rocks, which I don't like. That's what I didn't like about his game, was drawing rocks. Of course, he didn't have a choice. Sierra did it. But so it really wasn't his fault they had to draw rocks, even though.
But he let Sierra slip.
That too. That's what I don't like. I don't like, and he did try, and I will say that Jervis was hurting him. I don't want to speak on Tyson's behalf here, but I will say, like, just looking at it from the outside looking in, like, Jervis really hurt the chances of getting Sierra back. Like, Tyson didn't number them off 1, 2, 3, and then called Sierra 4. Like, that was a moment where, if you're looking at it outside looking in, you're like, oh, you're really, like, letting Sierra slip, Jervis. So that happened. It was a good move of him to flip the game on Aris, because it was a great power move to flip it from there, because Aris kind of had control, and then he flipped it on Aris with a blind side. Oh.
It's a tough one. This is a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Even if you didn't know Tyson personally, I would still think it would be a tough one.
Even if I didn't know Tyson personally, I'm still like, is it B or is it A? Because, it certainly wasn't the dominant win that we saw from Kim, but it was pretty dominant. And he found idols, and he won challenges, and he had a pretty good social game, and his strategy was pretty good in flipping things, and he kind of had that alliance with Monica and Jervis and stuck with it. I would say A. But I would say A leaning B.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me too. See, part of this too, especially for the seasons that have returning players, is I have to look at who the competition is. And I mean, Tyson had okay, Sierra was good, Laura was good.
Aris was actually doing. Aris and Venus were actually playing a good game, and he put a stop to it early, so we didn't get to see it play out, because he took him out pretty early in the merge. I think Aris was like second member of the jury.
Mm-hmm.
But Aris had control, and Tyson realized he was at the bottom and then flipped it. So, and Aris is a winner, and he was a good winner. Rupert was good competition, but that went to crap, and that kind of ruined the season for me, because I'm a big Rupert guy, and it's Rupert. He has to change with his wife, but it was still like, But
here's the question. Here's the question I'll ask.
Tina played good, and so did Laura. And Laura wasn't even sorry to hold my middle finger. Laura wasn't even a good player on Samoa, but she actually played really good on Blood versus Water.
See, I actually like Laura on Samoa. She was the only one I think that realized how
she stood out to me on Blood versus Water more so though.
Yeah, I think more so. I think it was just. If you ask Russell, like, he's like, if there was one person that he thought had a chance, obviously Natalie was the one that ended up beating him, but he's like, if you ask him, like, who's the one person that actually scared him, not only in Samoa, but between Samoa and Heroes versus Villains, mm-hmm. he would tell you the person that scared him the most was Laura Moret.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can see that.
Yeah. Here's what I'll ask you. Because Earl, like I said, Earl is kind of like our thin line between B and A. He's the line. Mm-hmm. Was Tyson's win in Blood versus Water more impressive? Oh, my chair just fell down. Was Tyson's win in Blood versus Water, to you, a more impressive victory than Earl's win in Fiji?
Considering the competition, I would say yes.
Okay. I was on the cusp of A and
I love Earl, and I think his game was great. But like you said, Earl's only competition was Yao Man, and that went away with Dreams. So,
right. I'm cool with putting.
You look at Tyson. Yeah. If we're taking into consideration competition, when me and you are having our cat fight about Kim and Boston Rob, then I would say, looking at the competition in all of these A tier winners, other than maybe Brian and Chris. But if you're looking at the competition from the people other than Brian, Chris, they all had, but they played so powerfully you can't deny them an A. And
I
Boston
think
Rob.
Vanuatu didn't have any like great players,
They're all
but it
average.
had they had a strong like alliance. Like the alliance that he had to overcome was
Yeah.
real. Like so the power didn't reside in like a few great players.
Yeah.
It was spread out. So
That's the difference. That's the difference in Tyson's win. Is Tyson's win there was a lot of good individuals because, like by that time, alliances flipped often.
mhm.
I mean, we saw a few alliance flips and
Yeah.
in Tyson's season, Blood versus
No,
Water.
I'll put him in A because I know how much putting Rob in A hurts you. So I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it.
Would you put him in B?
I'm on the cusp of A and B. If you had like a gun to my head and said pick right now, I'd probably say B. But I totally he had some tough competition, and
He did. And even though Brad Culpepper was taken out beforehand, that was actually a decent competition.
Very well rounded. I like games that are very well rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He dislocated his shoulder at the beginning and had to deal with that the whole time. And people don't really talk about that a lot, but like his shoulder was fricked up, and he still did really good considering that physically.
But some would say that helped. That helped his game.
What?
Not his physical game, but some people say that him hurting his shoulder took the target off of his back early on, and that actually helped him a lot in the long run.
That scene, and it also gave us one of those great scenes where he was like, "Yeah, I drank half the coconut and then share it with the other 5." Like that's why I love. Even if I didn't know Tyson like that, I would still say, man, Tyson's one of my favorite players.
Here's what I'll say about Tony winning 28 in Cagayan.
Crazy
if the game would have been final 3, to me it would have been either between a B or an A. But the fact that it went to final 2 and he had to convince Wu to bring him with him puts him to an A.
I put him at an S. Shoot.
For Cagayan.
Yeah, I put him at an S for Cagayan, and obviously Winners at War, he's going S. Like we don't have to talk about that, but dude, for Cagayan, dude, it's unlike any game we've ever seen before, right? Like the whole flip-flopping, and a lot of people do attribute his win to Trish's heavy lifting, and that might be true, but that's a part of a strategy too. You get that old lady who can do the heavy lifting socially for you, and he used her, and then he threw away and somehow got her jury vote again, and he did a great job. And dude, we've never seen. I would not play like Tony. I do not have the energy for that junk. But golly, dude, the fact that Tony literally kind of really played the Rob that played the game that Rob C wanted to play in his season, and actually did it perfectly how he wanted to do it. The constant flip-flopping, moving with the punches, going over here 1 second, going over here the other, finding idols. The only thing that Tony lacked was he only won one individual challenge, and it was reward. But still, I'd put it at an S. That game, that season, and the competition's great. If you think about competition, Spencer, Cass, Cliff Robinson was even great, and he discarded him early. I would have loved to see Cliff Robinson go on because he was probably one of the greatest athletes turned survivors that we'd seen. Rest in peace to him, by the way. Wu, the beauty guy, he was actually pretty good. LJ, I'm remembering names. I know it. It's crazy. I'm remembering people's names. He actually had
Cena.
Yeah, Sarah, dude. Now we're gonna put her as an. I'm gonna put her as an A, but another great player in her as well. That cast is so stacked, and how he maneuvered through all of those great Survivor players is wild. It's crazy. And dude, the fact that he went out and played a completely different game later, that was also crazy as well. But dude, that is a crazy game game. It's unorthodox. If you had to put a style, like in boxing, there's styles. Like that's the definition of an unorthodox Survivor game. But it was great.
Between Cagayan and Winners at War, if you had to put one S, one A, what would you go?
I would probably put Winners at War higher. Just
Same.
because the competition is so, even though both of the competition is fierce and somehow he found a way to win, what we saw with Winners at War was a key in Survivor, a key which Boston Rob cannot learn, and that is adaptability.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Natalie Anderson, San Juan del Sur. What's
great
what do you
comeback story with her too? Wait, where'd you put Tony? A or S?
Yeah. If we're gonna, because I agree with you. I think we have to, if we're gonna do one of each. I agree with you. I think we should do one of each. And I agree with you. If we had to do one of each, I would put the Cagayan one in A and the Winners of War, simply because of the competition of Winners of War is the greatest surpassed as far as competitive skill set.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Natalie to me is the most B of any Bs.
Yeah, I'd say B fringe A.
I'd say B, leaning even more in the B. Like I can't. To me, she's so far. She's far from an A and also far from a C. Like I could never imagine putting her with like. Yeah. I couldn't imagine putting her with Tony and Tyson, and Rob and JT.
Yeah, I couldn't put Natalie there. It's not just because I don't like her from Winners at War. It's also just because, she did play a good game. She kind of put herself in some sticky situations. But overall played a really good game, especially once it hit the final 7. We really saw her blossom into this really strategically aware player.
She picked the perfect time to really kick it into high gear.
Yeah, and that's the key with Survivor. So many players burn out. Play this great strategy game for 12 days, and then they burn out, and then you're like, oh, well, that's over. In sports, we talk about teams getting hot at the right time. She's the definition of that. She got hot just at the right time in the game. And took control just at the right moment. And
her sister got voted off first, so
might have helped her though.
Yeah. So quick logo plug. All right.
Why am I wearing a David versus Goliath buff, dude? I don't own that junk. I do not own David versus Goliath.
I think that was in the reference photo. It was for the designer was Davey and Nick. So you're made to look like Nick.
Oh, well, I would like to have one because it's a great season, but I don't have that buff.
Yeah.
All right,
Mike Holloway, season 30, Worlds Apart.
Okay.
Mike's tough. I feel like he's C or B.
Yeah, I'd put him at a C.
I mean, yes, it was arguably the second greatest comeback of all time, but again,
you put yourself there. That's the difference. He really put himself there. And Peridium has this video, worst moves made by winners. That turning back on the.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, he has that, and it's bad. It's like when you did that, you should have known. You should have weighed the risk and reward. I understand, because if I'm in the moment, the inner strategy, beast inside of me is like, turn your back, but then people can. What does that do? What does that accomplish? Because people can literally just refund their money. Mama C literally went back and was like, here, take my money back or whatever. I didn't know that was possible. But yeah, dude, you put yourself in that position, but we're not going to put you at a D because, you played one of the greatest comebacks of all time. But the social game was lacking. But Mike is a great winner.
Mm-hmm. For sure. This was one of the ones that I was the most excited to talk about.
Ooh,
is
this is a great. This is a great.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm going to surprise you with where I put him, and because of that, I want you to go first.
Oh man, for me, I'm thinking S or A. Obviously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say B or A.
No. I'm a big Jeremy fan. I really liked him. I think he was, he played how he should play in that season with great competition, might I add. And how he played in Blood vs. Water and When Is at War, he turned into Fishback like he was scared of doing. And, Second Chance, he was like, I don't want to play with a guy like Fishback. He was Fishback in those other 2 seasons, always paranoid and stuff like that. Calm, cool, collected, meat shield strategy used to a T. A great win. Very few flaws. He won the immunity challenges. He won the immunity challenges when it counted.
Mm-hmm.
So, winning that last one, because you look at Jeremy, big dude, athletic looking dude, didn't win as much challenges as Spencer did, but he won it when it counts. And I always appreciate the clutch players more than the people who, like Ozzy, have great or Joe have great immunity tears, but can't win when it matters most. Jeremy won when it matters most, and he played a great strategic and social game. S or A, dude, you can have your call. I think you're going to put him S, and I'm more than okay with that, even though I think the Cagayan game from Tony should be S as well, even though I understand you not putting Tony there just because the physical aspect. Tony didn't really do that great if you're not going to include the immunity idol findings as a part of the physical aspect. So, yeah, you can put him S. Go ahead.
So I'm going to put Jeremy at S. I think not only do I think that Cambodia was one of the most impressive victories, I would go as far as saying that Cambodia is the most flawless victory in 40 seasons of Survivor.
I agree. Yeah, it's great.
I mean, if you rewatch Cambodia and you can point out one thing that he did wrong, I will give you my life savings.
The only time he was in actual danger, and like I said, the meat strategy saved him, because he kept around Savage.
Well, he was in danger. I'm just talking about like actual moves he did wrong.
Yeah, no, but the only time that you could say like, oh, like he neglected, he could have easily gone home here, but once again, he had the meat show strategy working for him just in case something did happen, like a Wentworth idle play, and you put 9 votes on Wentworth. That's the only time Wentworth could have sent Jeremy packing, and then maybe when we interview Savage, he's the winner now. But but that meat show strategy saved him, and it's really smart, and he did that to a T. And like he did play a pretty flawless game, not a perfect game, I believe, right? But
perfect, yeah.
He got no votes the whole time.
Nope.
Okay, that's what I thought. And he only lost. He won 7-2, right?
No, he won every jury vote.
Oh, I thought Spencer got 2 votes for some reason.
No, he got every single one.
Yeah. Then it's great gameplay. For some
physical beast, social game. No, social game. Great final tribal council performance. The competition. I mean, Spencer, Tasha, who played a great, an underrated game that season. Kind of gave up towards the end. At least that's what the edit made us seem. But Fishback, is a great player. You had Andrew Savage. I mean, Wentworth out of nowhere. So many great. So many things that you wouldn't have. So many things you wouldn't have seen coming with, with the Witches Coven and Sierra's pleas for someone to do something to Joe. At that time we knew Joe was a challenge beast. We didn't know that he was like the GOAT challenge beast. So, Jeremy, you don't think Joe is the greatest challenge competitor of all time? Statistically,
statistically, 70% of the challenges he takes part of, he wins. Yes.
If not him, then who?
I mean, I really liked Colby, and I really liked Ozzy, and I really like. We don't have to get in this conversation right now. It's hard for me to call him. You know what? I'm okay with calling him the Meathead Challenge Beast because he has no strategy to his game other than win immunity challenges. So you know what? Yeah, let's call him the greatest strategy. I just don't like calling him the GOAT per se because he's also stupid. So that's the problem I have. Because like, yeah, call him the GOAT, but as soon as the necklace is off, he's done.
Right. Okay, so Jeremy had to
Anyway.
deal with, oh wow, Joe is the best challenge competitor of all time. Oh wow, all these returning players either are exactly as good as they were before or have gotten better than they were before. He had to deal with that. He had to deal with the thing with Sierra I was talking about. He had to deal with Wentworth's idol. He had to deal with that one tribal council, like probably the craziest tribal council of all time, when like everybody played something and then like was Keith and that whole thing. It was like he had to deal with so many obstacles, and it's like he came out of all of those like with no scars. Like none of them tacked down his game. They either didn't affect him at all, or somehow he managed to make that better. He was Kim in Boston Rob, but in like a chilled way. He was like the cool manager at like a store. Like he was the chill leader. He was like the leader that's like, is he the leader? Yeah, he's a leader.
Which is the type of leadership style that you should use in Survivor, is the type that Jeremy was. It's the leader without you're the leader without people realizing you're the leader. And that's surprising.
It's surprising it took someone 31 seasons to play that game. And yeah, I'm glad. I thought you were gonna say B or A. I'm glad.
He played like Earl on steroids, basically.
Right. It's weird because Michele Fitzgerald's win in Kaoh Rong season 32, I respect her as a Survivor player. Not that I didn't respect her win, but she was one of those people that I actually respected more. And you could say this for the next two people on our tier list. I liked them more on Winners at War as players. Huh?
Not the next four though. But yeah,
just the next two. Yeah, I'm more impressed with Michele's game on Winners at War than I was on Kaoh Rong, and part of it is, of course, the competition. And I don't think Kaoh Rong had that many great players on it.
Aubrey, you had Ty, and
is Ty a great player?
No.
Does Ty ever have a chance of winning?
Ever?
Mm-hmm. He played twice, and I feel like he just never had a chance of winning either season. But Aubrey, for sure.
He's always really, he's how Fabio acts is how Ty really is. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think Michelle's. I can't put Michele in a D. I think she's B or C. I might leave C. Because like I'm looking at the B's.
Because Michele actually was really good socially and physically.
Very good.
Very good. She's actually for being on the beauty tribe and not the brawn tribe. She actually is very smart. And I've watched a lot of Michele interviews, and she's really smart.
We all have.
Okay.
I
really wasn't a big fan of her game watching it at first because I was a big Aubrey fan. But
yeah, me too.
No, and her Winners at War game, while it was, she was always left out. She was left out for a reason. She's a great player. So, and they knew that. And that's even Tony the GOAT said that. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and like when you look at the B's, like I don't think her win is on par with Tina. I don't think her win is on par with Fabio, with Sandra, definitely not with Earl, definitely not with Cochran and Denise. So I'm cool with you. You cool with C? I'm cool with C. You cool with C?
I'm cool with C because I can't put Michele on par with Natalie White. I'm sorry, but it's not happening.
Yeah, oh, definitely not D. Definitely not D. I think, well, I won't get ahead of myself. Adam Klein, another guy. See, Michelle's interesting because even though I like her game better in Winners at War, that makes sense statistically because she came in second place on the most stacked cast ever, as opposed to her win on Kaoh Rong. So it kind of balances in that way. The thing with Adam Klein is
Mm.
he was the merge boot, right? Was he the merge? He was the merge boot, I think, in Winners at War. Yeah, for some reason, I was still more impressed with his Winners at War game than I was with his Millennials and Gen X game. If I had to put Adam somewhere, I would probably put him at the same as Michele. I'd probably put him at C.
Me too. And we, like you said, we're not looking at the game as a whole, and we're looking at his season. And while he did play season very well, as a part of his game, obviously that's real life, but a part of his game had to be holding in the fact that his mother had a terminal cancer to the end. Because if you reveal that stuff, then that's a huge target because because of what exactly happened. You say that at tribal, and while people say, "Oh, you're using a sob story to get $1 million," you're using a sob story to get $1 million, and it's not a sob story. It's your life. It's what's happening in your life. He's dealing with this, and he was going through a lot during the season, and I can't imagine the type of turmoil he was going through. Being away from his mom, and but overall, he before David gets voted out, the game's really centered around David, and David's playing the greater game, and he's the decoy winner that pretty much like to call it. David's the decoy winner, and then Adam comes in and seemingly steals it, even though he was playing a pretty good game, controlling the votes and being in the right position at the right time. I don't know if I put it on par with Tina and stuff like that, but I can't put Adam at a D. I definitely think he's a C. Fringe B. I really, watching it back, because the first time I went through watching it, I didn't watch it. I stopped watching Survivor after Michele won, I think, just because I was like, frick this game. Like, Aubrey didn't win, I'm done. But watching it back, I'm a bad person, I know. No, watching it back a few months ago, the first time watching it through, I was like, Adam's a little whiny. Like, I wish he would play with like some conviction and stop crying so much. And then but watching it again, I was like, oh, well, first of all, it's very understandable why you're crying so much. And then also, I'm now looking at your strategy, and his strategy was actually pretty decent. It was more than just dealing with his mom. It was he was actually took out Zeke at the right time. That was a good move. And
Jay.
Jay, even though him and Jay was a good relationship and a good rivalry, underrated rivalry even. And
you're starting to make me want to put him at B.
I kind of do want to put him at a B. I thought he was C. I thought he was B Fringe C, if you wanted to ask me. But I'm okay with a C. But I really did like his gameplay. Personally, I liked it more than people like Michele and Sophie. I thought his game was a little better than that. But if you look at it from his physical game wasn't there, but he worked with what he had, and he had a great
C+.
Council. He had a great final tribal council. Yeah, C+. We can call it a C+, but he had a great final tribal council. A great game overall. I like Adam, and I wasn't an Adam fan before Winners at War. After Winners at War, I went back and watched the season again and tried to take my emotions out of it, because I'm not a big fan of people crying and stuff like that. Usually when people cry, it really turns me off. But then I was like, you know what? He actually played a really good game, and then I was like, and I understand why you're crying. He played a good game.
Yeah. He might be what Earl is to the B's. He might be that for the C's. He might be the new standard bearer.
If you're above Adam, then you're a B. If you're, something like that. He's a B plus. I would have put him, or he's a C plus. I would have put him at a B, but I understand the C as well.
To me, Sarah Lucina is an A, and I don't think you'll be able to convince me otherwise.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say S.
I would say S if the Game Changers competition was a little stronger, because I think that was.
It was, Culpepper was easy to be at the end. She also had a really good final tribal council and owning her game.
Great final tribal council.
Stone cold killer, bro. Really liked her game. I would put her A Fringe S.
Awesome. I'm super happy you agree with that. And the thing with Sarah, I don't think I rooted for anyone harder post Heroes versus Villains than I rooted for Sarah in Game Changers. Like she just played with like this, like you said, she just played so stone cold killer. That was a great way to put it.
If Brian is the Ice Man, she's the Ice Woman. You know,
right? Tell me about Ben. What are your thoughts on Ben?
Ben, a lot of people don't like Ben, and I understand why, because he is the reason that a lot of people think he's the reason there's a fire making challenge at the end, because, you know, the game's looking like it's going Chrissy's way. It's looking like, oh, Chrissy's going to win this thing. She's going to be able to take out Ben. Ben put the upside down U and couldn't spell hustlers. And his social game was pretty lacking. The only thing he could do was his bin bombs and trying to win individual immunities. He's great at finding idols. Is there anything else to his game? Not really. Also, I know we're not looking at other seasons, but I don't like quitters, and Ben's a quitter. But if you're just looking at his win, even if you're just looking at his win on his actual season, Chrissy should have won. She got duped by a bad twist, and he went to the end, and the jury likes big moves, and Ben had his Ben bombs and winning individual immunities, and he's an American hero, and, you know, he spoke about PTSD a lot, and he has that story going for him, but there's really no strategy other than he beat Devin in the fire making challenge at the end. He shouldn't have been in, and because of him, I really do think they might have made the fire making challenge just because they wanted Ben to get to the end, because the production wanted that so bad, and it pisses me off because I hate the ending fire making challenge.
Me too.
But yeah, I would say D, just because, you know, I don't know how you could say otherwise. A lot of people don't like Ben. I don't hate Ben, and, you know, if I was Ben, great, I'm a freaking Survivor winner, and, you know, I played, but he was on the bottom, and he could have not been if he had a decent, at least half decent social game, and he didn't have that.
I agree. So D for Ben.
Yep.
And with that, quick logo plug. All right. I think I know where you're going to want to put this next guy.
No, you don't.
No?
I'm not putting him at a D. Like, obviously, I'm not the biggest one.
I thought you were going to put him at C.
No, because competition-wise, I'd put a B.
Okay. That's where I'd put him.
Look, I'm not the biggest Wendell fan, but, like, dude, you beat out a great competitor at the end. And then also, like, his physical game was there, and he had good social game, especially with connecting with the final member of the jury. It turned out to be at the end, and that connection ended up winning him the game just because he was a good social player like that.
Yeah.
His strategy was there. He was a lot more quieter than Dominic.
He was probably the most introverted winner.
Yeah, he was a lot which is funny because the thing I don't like about Wendell is that he talks a lot and he's extroverted during challenges, and he
See, I love it. I love that about him.
You like it. The inner sportsman inside of me hates it, but it's whatever. But yeah, he still had a very, very solid game. And while, like, he obviously got screwed over, even me, even I could recognize that the fact he got screwed over in Winners at War with the edit. But he did a really good job in Ghost Island. Might not be my favorite winner of all time, but he was a good winner.
Yeah, I mean, he found an idol. Did he found 2 idols? I feel like he found 2 idols in Ghost Island. He definitely found at least one, but he won at least one immunity. Yeah. He built great relationships. It just seemed like every time in Ghost Island post-merge, like once Chris Noble went home, it was like every time in Ghost Island, it was like Dom it was like, okay, it's got to be one of these 2 or 3 people. And then he went and told, like, because the alliance was Dom and Wendell, and then it was like all their like pawns. It was like the pawns, and the pawns would always be like, okay, that's cool. Let's go see what Wendell thinks. Like they always had to report back to him, and Wendell would just be off like making a chair somewhere. Like, yeah, let's go with that. It was like he was the filter, like he was the final filter that every decision, like he didn't make the decisions, but it was like every decision always had to go through him before it happens. And I just don't know how he was able to make that happen because I've never seen anything like that. Because like you could say Rob, every decision had to go through Rob, had to go through Kim in their seasons, or had to go through Hatch in his season. But they also like those decisions came from them. Like Wendell never really made any big decisions unless his filter. It was like he had final veto. It's like he had a veto on every decision that was made. And if he said no, everyone was like, oh, "Okay, well, who would you do?" Oh, we'll vote her. Oh, okay, yeah, cool. It was just like everything he was like the silent boss. it was weird. Like you said, good competition. So good. I'm glad you put him at B. Because I put him at B, and I would also put Nick at B. Very different game than Wendell's, but I feel like he was the ultimate David, and how like poetic that a David beat a Goliath in the end. I feel like one guy needed to like be the David of the Davids, and I feel like it was Wendell, and like he built a strong alliances, and he was a great social player with naming the alliances and everything, and then how tight he got with Christian. Yeah, how tight he got with Christian, and like he knew exactly when the time was to get rid of Christian, and like when Carl found his what is it, the nullifier that Carl found, it was like the only guy that Carl told was him, and like Nick picked the exact right time to tell Carl to play it and to block Jake's idol, and it was just like every big moment, every blind side, every idol play, every advantage play came through Nick for David versus Goliath. I think he's a B and one of the stronger Bs, but not an A.
He is strong B. He's not an A. No. And like Wendell, another person that got screwed with the Winners at War edit, but still a great player.
Yeah.
All right, so D. Moving on.
Okay, so Tommy's interesting. Tommy's interesting because recency bias would make you think that I don't know. Tommy's interesting. Tommy might be the toughest one now that I'm thinking about it. I thought Tyson was going to be the toughest one coming into this, but Tommy's got to be A or B. But like,
don't let the cloud hang over Tommy. Tommy played a great social game. Tommy played a great social game. The physical game wasn't there, and I feel like Lauren did some of the heavy lifting with strategy as well. But still, he was a part of it, and he had good timing and great strategy. B at least.
One of the best social game winners ever. And I love the fact that on Island of the Idols, everyone post-merge had to go except for Tommy. He was the only one that didn't go, and he won the game. Dude.
Austin, Rob, and Sandra gave out some pretty bad advice. Like, honestly, like,
yeah,
they weren't the best mentors in the world, and that showed. I would put Tommy at a B. Honestly,
I would put him as a B and one of the better Bs. I'd say like behind Cochran, Earl, maybe Nick. I don't know. I like B. I like B for him.
All right, here we go with the S tier. That's our 4 S's, huh?
That's our 4 S's.
I mean, what needs to be said more about Tony? He played a great game, an adaptable game, beating out 19 other winners. Some great games by people. There were people that were playing great games. He snuffed out Adam's game early. He snuffed out Sophie's game early. Just the alliance with Sarah. We hadn't really seen Tony work with one person the whole time before. But he did that, And despite the stupid Edge of Extinction and Natalie coming back and trying to screw his game over, even she couldn't do that. This is the time that I am happy that a fire making challenge happened. One of the only times I'm happy that a fire making challenge happened. Tony, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, in my opinion, 2 S tier games. But golly, to play a game like that, a great.
No votes casted against them.
Of course.
Crazy. 4 immunity wins, right? Was it 3?
It was 4.
4 immunity wins. Took advantage of the advantages.
It was early
somehow the extortion advantage ended up helping him. No one went against, really wanted to vote him out. Even when he backstabbed people, somehow they would.
Tribal council, by the way.
Somehow when he backstabbed people, they came crawling right back, like Sarah. I mean, he is the S tier of all S tiers.
Yeah.
Like his win at Winners of War is the greatest win that any player has had in any reality TV competition show ever.
I have never wanted somebody to win so badly than Tony. Like, I've never wished somebody would win. I cried when he beat Sarah. I was like, because I love Sarah, but I was rooting for Tony just a little bit more. And I was like,
I was rooting for Boston Rob. As much as I
Boston Rob too, but when I saw that Boston Rob couldn't adapt and play a game with other winners, then I was like, well, frick Boston Rob, dude. Like, I thought you were one of the greatest survivors of all time. You're gonna come out here and try to strong arm winners? Are you stupid? Tony did the opposite. He laid low until the right time, and then about final 9, it became Tony's game to lose. And it was a great, great game. He maneuvered his way correctly. He had alliances and fake alliances. It was amazing to watch, entertaining, and the best game that we've ever seen ever against the greatest competition ever.
Who would you say for each tier? And I don't want to take too much time doing this, so we'll try to make this a bit of a speed round. But for each tier, who would you say is like the top and the bottom of each tier? So like for D, Tony, who's closer to C?
Tony's top of S. For A, I would say probably Tony's 28 is top of A.
Okay.
Maybe Sarah. For B, the B of like the highest B is probably still Earl. For me, I'd probably still say Earl. And the top of the C's is probably Adam. I like Adam. I like I said, I probably would have put him in B. So it'd probably be Adam for there. And then the top of D's for me is still Bob Crawley.
You think you like Tony is higher than Boston Rob? I mean, I agree.
Yep.
Okay. My top for each is almost identical. Tony is the best S. The only one I'll disagree with you on is A.
Who do you think is the best?
I don't know. I just don't think it's Tony. It's not Sarah. I'll use process of limit. It's not Sarah. It's not Tyson. It's not Rob. It's either those 3 in the middle there. It's either JT, Parvati, or Todd.
I would say Parvati. I would agree. I could see how you would say Todd, and I could see how you would say JT. But Parvati, like overall, Parvati is a great player, obviously, especially in heroes versus villains. But Sari should have won.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm going Todd, and I agree with you on the rest. Earl is the best B. Adam's the best C, closely followed behind by Mike, very closely. D, D, yes, I think has to be. I don't know. I'd actually pick Jenna. I'd pick Jenna, but Bob is close. Bob is a close second. Now, who in each tier is just on the cusp
of being
like
out?
Of being one less?
Okay, Kim. And then who would be out of A? Golly, these players are all such A's. I don't. This one's tough. Probably Tyson. I say Tyson.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know, dude. Because Chris, it would either be Tyson or Chris, for me.
Okay. Mine is Chris, and mine is
Okay.
Kim for S.
Yeah, for me, it's either Tyson or Chris, just because when you look at A's, like everybody's so powerful and like such a dominant player, and Tyson wasn't that. Of course, that was his game that he had to play, but looking at all of the A's, like Tyson's game wasn't as powerful because he didn't have the power the whole time. He gained the power at Final 7. He didn't have it the whole, he didn't have it the whole time.
To B.
And Chris is the same way. That's why Chris and Tyson are similar to me. But I wouldn't. Still, they're solid A's to me. Everybody here in A belongs in A.
All right, and B's.
Okay, Visepia. Okay, and then in C, who should be out? Maybe, probably, Amber. Probably Amber. Maybe Danny. I can see how somebody would say Danny. And then D, who should be freaking F? Oh gosh, Chris.
For me, the ones on the cusp are Kim for S, Chris for A.
Okay.
B is it's either Sandra or Tina. It's definitely not Visepia. I'll say I'll say Tina. I'll say Tina because Tina shouldn't have been at the end, and it was Colby's decision that got her the win. Whereas Sandra,
I can see why you say that. Yes.
Yeah. For C, everyone is so perfect. Like C is so perfect.
I like C as well.
If I had to pick one, I'd say Danny.
Okay. I can see that. That's what I about said Danny, but I said Amber instead, and now I kind of want to say Danny. So
D's Chris. Okay, so that's our tier list. That's our final list. I'll give everyone a quick 5 seconds to take a peek at it. There it is. There it is. Bada bing, bada boom. Quick logo plug. All right.
Oh man.
All right. That's it. Tier ranking every winners. There it is. Game over. What are we doing next? We're tier ranking all the seasons?
That took us freaking 3 hours to tier rank all the winners, dude.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot. It's gonna take us a lot longer to do seasons.
You think so?
Oh yeah, because me and you disagree on a lot with seasons. I feel like even though me and you disagree about a lot, I think we disagree more about certain seasons.
What's funny is there's not many things that we disagree a little bit. I feel like we're either completely on the same page or completely off, which is interesting. Like there's not many players where it was like, I think B, I think C. It was always like, if I was C, you were B leaning C. So seasons, yeah, we might have to break seasons into like 4 parts or maybe even
part
for or 40 parts.
I don't think I can do it all in one day. I think we'd have to take a break.
Yeah, maybe 40 parts. Okay. Subscribe to the channel. One last logo plug. Before we let you guys
turn on the bell, get your notifications going so you're notified at every post from Reality Pop. Make sure to start listening to us on the certain podcasting platforms. And
leave a comment where you would put Boston Rob's victory.
Yeah, S or A. Which one is it? Because it's not going to be B. Because if it's B, then I will come to your house and sprinkle you. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for watching.
It's not B.